Hi Gemini, welcome to Yellow Card No Tarot with me. My name is Carole and this is going to be a general reading for you for December 2025. And if you're new to my channel, I want to welcome you and I encourage you to subscribe. And this is going to be a very powerful month for you for transformation. There's just so many energies going on in our solar system up above us. In December 4th, we had a full moon. And then on December 19th, there's a new moon coming along with the Comet 3i Atlas, if you've been paying attention to that. And it's going to be the closest to the Earth. So it's going to be coming right before the December solstice for us on December 21st. So it's really a period of deep inner healing. I know for myself, I've really felt like I've sort of been in this sort of waiting period or a cocoon state. And I know that I've been also releasing and I've been healing. So this is what this reading is going to be about. It's going to be about what you need to release this month that's no longer serving you. And because as we move into this new year and as we move into a place of higher consciousness, there are things now that are people that we need to let go of that no longer can come with us. And, you know, sometimes it could be big emotions that we need to release as well. So we're going to look at that to see what it is for you, Gemini. And before we begin, I selected two oracle cards right before we came on. And one of them was from the Return of Spirit. And the other one was from the Secrets of the Ancestors. And what I did was I had a look at those and kind of got an idea of where it sort of sets me up as a theme for you and what's going on. And so you'll see me, I'll refer back to them through your reading. So the first one you got from the Return of Spirit was commitment. And so this tells me, I mean, take a look at that big bow right in the middle of this reading. Of this card. And it really tells me about that you're making some sort of a commitment. Now, this could be a commitment to something. It could be a commitment to someone else. And it also could be a commitment to yourself. And oftentimes when we do commit to something, really, it's committing to yourself. Like you might be, you know, committing yourself to some business that you're deciding you want to start. Or like, I mean, it could be something very small towards this business. Or you might be committing yourself to a vacation that you've been wanting to take for a while. And it's been kind of, you know, you've been feeling like, oh, I want to go visit this place. Maybe you're signing up for some classes, a new project you're thinking about. Or, you know, you might be making a commitment to someone else. You might be moving in with somebody. You might be getting married. Who knows, right? It could be anything. But I think what's most important is that sometimes we can be realizing that there's a commitment that needs to be made to ourselves or to someone else or to something. But it's something that's pretty big, because once you make that commitment, it's going to be a big deal. And it's going to be something that you might have a hard time getting out of. And so you may be wavering as far as, you know, should I make this commitment? I'm not sure. And oftentimes that is a good sign that it's the right direction. I cringe when I heard of people say that the sign that you shouldn't be going a certain direction, or the sign that you shouldn't be doing something, is when you get this fear in your system and you feel like you can't do it. That is a huge sign. If you get all this resistance in yourself because you want to take this next step, that's a huge sign that you are going in the right direction. There just sometimes has to be a little bit of healing or a lot of healing around whatever this is. I know when I've gone through some major steps in my own creative journey, or my own journey to put myself first, and even like to do this tarot channel, it's not something that comes like this. You do little steps, and sometimes you'll hit the wall and you'll get scared and you'll go, I can't do it anymore. But then you do some more healing around, where's this fear coming from? Why can't I do this? And then once you get through that, you work through maybe some memories. you process the emotions around it, and then the clarity comes through for you, and you almost like you step right into that thing that you wanted to do or that you wanted to commit yourself to. It's funny how it's kind of like a magical thing that happens, but it's not if you do the work around it. So it's well deserved. And so besides this commitment that you're facing this month, there's this other card, and it's called the Ancestral Force, and it's called Completion. And this is the tarot card that they referred to was the World card. So there's going to be a sense of completion for you, and it's like, to me, it's a card that says, look how far you've come. Be proud of you. You're not the same person you used to be. Because oftentimes when we're asked to make a commitment, sometimes when we're asked to let go of certain things, because that's what this reading is going to be about, we don't realize that we've changed. I mean, if you think of yourself 6 months ago, sometimes even a month ago, you're a different person. And so be proud of yourself, because there's this sense of wholeness now around you where you feel like you've done maybe some real heavy healing for yourself. You've made a few good strides in your healing. So it's time to allow yourself maybe to be more vulnerable with the people in your inner circle. If you don't have a lot of people in your inner circle, maybe it's time to open up to other people. And also what's important about this card is that the ancestors have your back. There's some ancestors out there that have your back, and I knew I couldn't forget that point for you. So let's take a look at this. So what are you being asked to release that's no longer serving you? And I imagine it's going to be around this commitment that you're having to make. There's something sort of maybe holding you back. And so we're going to find out, okay, what is this? What is this person, this thing? What's in your way? What are you being asked to release that's no longer serving you, Gemini? So I'm going to start off by using the Curious Travels deck, and I am going to clarify it with the Tarot of A.E. Waite, which is a Rider-Waite deck. So let's start off with one card for what's Gemini being asked to release for this reading, this December 2025, this powerful month. My voice is sounding funny right now. 10 of Pentacles. 10 of Pentacles. That's interesting. For something to release. What's coming up from your shadow that needs healing? Which is definitely going to be related to, now that I think about it, I did forget to tell you what the reading was going to be about. So I'm going to take 2 seconds right now. So yeah, we're going to go into what you're being asked to release that's no longer serving you. So we did that one. And now we're going to go into what's coming up from your shadow that needs healing. And this is the 5 of Swords that you got. So we're going to do some shadow work in the second line. And it's very much going to be related to what you're being asked to release. Because when we're being asked to release something or someone that's no longer serving us, it's definitely going to be related to something that's sitting in our unconscious that needs healing. Because we won't be able to release it, or we won't be able to yet to release this person, this thing, until we've figured out, okay, what's coming up for healing for myself. And again, it's all tied into the commitment that you're being asked to make, that you're being asked to make this month as well. And then we're going to ask for some guidance from the tarot. So guidance from the tarot for Gemini right now. The 6 of Wands in reverse. All right, so can I have a couple cards to tell me some more about this 10 of Pentacles? One more card. Here we go. So you have the 5 of Cups in reverse and the Empress card. Now that is our first major arcana card coming up for you, the Empress. All right. I am going to say right off the bat that you have a first row of emotions. So I'm going to say there's some big emotions here that you need to release, so we'll get into that. 5 of Swords. Couple cards for that. And the 5 of Swords is, you know, a card, definitely a big emotion there that's sitting in your shadow that's wanting to come out. There we go. There's one there. And one more. Okay, so the 4 of Cups and the 9 of Pentacles. Six of Wands, couple cards for that. Another major arcana card. Yeah, so you have the High Priestess in reverse and the Hanged Man. So 2 major arcana cards here in the as guidance from the tarot. So some big energies for you that are here to support you along with your ancestors. So let's start off with what you're being asked to release that's no longer serving you. Well, you start with the 10 of Pentacles, and this 10 of Pentacles, take a look at this one. This card really talks about, the one big thing that shows up when I look at it is this whole idea of family, but in particular it has like a father, a mother, and their young ones here. And so this really talks about, to me, lineage. And I often call this card, because it's a healing channel, this is the card of what's handed down from you in your lineage. In other words, I call this card my, there's a word I use, but it's trauma that's handed down. So there's something here that, some kind of trauma in your unconscious that has been handed down, you know, from generation to generation, generational trauma card, that's what I call it, that has been handed down to you. And so oftentimes when this card comes up, I ask my listeners, like yourself, are you aware of what sort of trauma your own caretakers, that comes from your own lineage? Are you aware of, you know, your parents or your grandparents, or, you know, even if you're someone that is not with your biological family, you can inherit trauma from those parents, those caretakers that raised you as well. And so this is a question of, you know, what sort of trauma was handed down to you, because it's very important to be aware of, okay, who raised me and what was the trauma that they had that they would have given me. And so it's really going to become evident for me, to you and for me, because I can see what's happening here. In particular, this is a big emotion that's coming up right now for you. And I imagine it's an emotion that's related to maybe a memory that wants to come up for you. Maybe, like, I know when I have my own, I have complex trauma. And so I've been working intensively for almost it's 8.5 years right now. But I know that, I forget where I was going to go with this. Oh, yes. I know that when I've worked through my own memories, I've always worked through them in themes. And so maybe you know what sort of theme you're working on right now with your own healing. Sometimes it's like certain patterns that are coming up, something you've worked on before. You know, you can have certain emotions that come out and they'll come up again. Like, I've dealt with loneliness many, many times, or sometimes shame comes up over and over, or grieving will come up. And, you know, so it can be different layers of it. We spiral through different layers. This one in particular is the 5 of Cups, and it's in reverse. And so that tells me that you're sitting with a real resistance right now, or a real fear of going towards this, or feeling this particular emotion. And we do, when these emotions come up, we block them. And our ego self does not want us to feel these emotions. And, you know, sometimes we can really be up in our heads because we don't want to go into our body and feel these emotions. And this one in particular, in an upright position, this individual is really cloaked in, I mean, this could be like a shadow card almost. Maybe you're going through some sort of a shadow, a period of really a deep dive into your own emotions right now. And because this water here is flowing, and water always has to do with emotions, but this individual doesn't want to look at them. Instead, they're focusing on these 3 cups that have been spilled, and they don't see that there's 2 others still standing. They don't see that there's a silver lining at the end of all this grieving that this individual has to go through. This is a card of deep, I'm going to say, depression. You can go in and out of hopelessness, right? And what people don't realize is that our depression that we go in and out of, I mean, we can sit in that stuff. And I say we because I am one of them. I know what it feels like to sit in my own hopelessness. I can, and we can sit with that for weeks, sometimes months. Maybe you've been in it for years. Maybe you're on medication for it. But we can go in and out of it. We can feel good sometimes, and maybe you're having a real bout of it right now. I know December is usually a really bad month for me for it. Not as much anymore because I've done a lot of healing around it. But I can see this is, you know, maybe this is what you're going through right now, is this depression. But what you don't realize is that depression is really a screen. It's a cover-up for another emotion that's behind it that we just don't want to go to. And that's the emotion of grief. So there's some real grieving that needs to come up here for you. Because to do with whatever it is that you're working on, this sort of, maybe it's a memory, it's something from your childhood, your adolescence that's coming up here for you to heal. And right behind it is the Empress card. So you have this energy that's sitting here for you. And this is the energy of the Empress. This is the Empress that lives through her emotions. She makes all her decisions through her emotions. She's embodied. She lives in her body. It's the feminine part of us, right? She's very grounded. And she's not afraid to feel her emotions. Emotions are meant to flow in. We process them, and then they flow out. And that's how we heal. We heal through feeling our emotions. That is the only way we can heal. There is no way around it. We can try. We can try to numb out. We can try to distract. We can try to push them down and do what it takes. But there's some real big heavy energy here for you that says, you know, it's time for you to get into your body and get grounded, because there's some big emotions that are coming up for you. And the first one I'm seeing here is grief. Now, we're going to go to your shadow, and we're going to see, why is this coming up? Like, what is there? What's here? Why am I sitting in this depression? What am I meant to feel from my shadow that needs healing? And so the first card you get is the 5 of Swords. And the 5 of Swords speaks of, this particular card shows, this looks like the individual that was wounded quite a bit in the 5 of Swords. Normally you find him way at the back of the card in the Rider-Waite deck, but this time they put him on the front. And he is the one that I like to focus on, because he's the victim. He's the victim of bullying. And in particular, these swords represent mental thoughts, mental energies, things that you repeat. So maybe when you're sitting in this, excuse me, this depression that you're in, this hopelessness, what sort of things are you saying to yourself? Maybe they're things that you were told when you were younger, and we can tend to repeat them in our head. But I'm wondering if, you know, you were bullied when you were younger. Could have been, you know, bullied on the schoolyard. It could have been bullied by your caretakers. And even as an adult, if we were bullied when we were younger, we're going to continue to get bullied as an adult. I know just last week I found myself realizing that I was in a situation where somebody was trying to bully me. And it was interesting because you'd think that, I've been on this journey for a while, but it took me a little bit longer, not long as long as it would have, but longer than I wanted it to take to realize what was going on. And so with bullying comes a lot of shame. This is a shame card for me. Now, we're not born with shame. Bullies bully us because they're full of shame and they need to give it to someone else, right? And so we get shame from the people it's handed down, right? And so we speak of, it's interesting because this bullying card for you is sitting, this shame is sitting right underneath the generational trauma card. And so, as I said, shame will be something that's handed down to you. And the person that gave it to you has a lot of it themselves that they haven't healed. So, when you were younger, you definitely, like I said, were bullied in some way. There was shame that came your way. You were blamed, you were shamed for doing something. And the Four of Cups comes in, excuse me, when you were younger. And this is an individual. I want you to picture this as you as a child sitting there with your arms crossed. These cups that are being, this one cup in particular that's being offered to you right here is a cup of emotions. It's an offer from the universe and saying, listen, don't you want to feel anymore? Do you want to go a little bit deeper with your emotions? But this is you as a child that decided at a very young age that emotions were dangerous. And so what happens when we feel these big emotions like shame, well, we can't feel them when we're young. We don't understand that. That is such a heavy emotion to feel. And so you couldn't feel that. And so that's where you shut it down. You shut down, you learned that it wasn't a safe place for you. And so right now you're being asked to feel some of this hopelessness that you felt when you were younger. And it's hard for you because you shut those down when you were younger. You put them away. Along with that shame comes a lot of grief, because shame tells you that you don't matter. Shame really says, you're just a piece of shit. And then along with that comes a heck of a lot of grief. And those two go together almost. I find that oftentimes when I'm feeling the shame, I have to grieve, and then through the grief I can understand the shame, and I grieve that as well. And so the last card that you get in your shadow is the Nine of Pentacles. And so as a child, Nine of Pentacles really to me talks about this card of self-care and taking care of yourself. But I think that, at a point in time where that whole idea of self-care and caring for yourself and loving yourself, because that's what self-care is. Self-care is loving yourself, but you put that away right here. And so the whole idea of you loving yourself, well, it got replaced by shame, and it was replaced by a lot of grief and a lot of I don't matter in this world. And so that's where you're sitting. And that's why you're feeling so much depression. Because when you're younger and you have this much shame and this much unworthiness that you felt, well, when you get to become this adult, you start to feel, well, what's the point? Why bother? Why bother doing anything? And you get into these bouts of depression in and out. But what's happening is those are really a flashback of what happened when you were younger, when you felt like you didn't matter. I mean, when you were younger, there was no point in trying, because the people that you needed to be there for you weren't there for you. And so that's when you gave up when you were younger. And so as an adult, you're giving up with this hopelessness again, but it's reminding you that this is a flashback from your childhood. If I could only tell everybody in this whole world that your hopelessness and your depression is a flashback from your childhood. And I had to learn that over and over and over again in my own healing until this morning, and this is 8.5 years, I woke up feeling, why bother getting out of bed? And I could feel it as I was laying in bed, and I knew that I had to get up and I had to journal. I journal from, why bother? Why bother going on? Why bother getting out of bed? And I'm able to do that now because I've cleared out a lot of my hopelessness from my system, but I do it by writing. I do it by journaling. That's the only way I can get out of my depression, is to write. And normally you don't feel like doing a thing. But now I'm able to get up and go, okay, I woke up with some hopelessness this morning. I need to go and journal. And so what guidance does the tarot have for you in relation to the situation that you're sitting in? Well, you have the Six of Wands in reverse. And the Six of Wands talks about this victory card right here, right in an upright position. It's all these people that are cheering you, coming back, walking through these wands, and it's like you've made it. And this card I see as there's my sixes in my deck have a duality to them. And so if you, like I said, it looks like it's a victory card, but there's something that you don't see. You don't see what was lost. I always say that, people that have, it looks like they've have the most glorious lives, and they look like they're so lucky, and they look like they have everything. But a lot of times there's something that we don't see that's hidden behind all of that. And so this card speaks to me of what's been lost. What's been lost. It looks like a victory card, but there's like what's been lost. And so I see this as a card of grief. And so your reading has brought up two big emotions for you: shame and grief. And this one's in reverse because, like I said, it was in reverse over here. This was the hopelessness. This is shame, grief. And then you had the shame right here in your shadow. And now the universe says, well, it's time for you. Let's focus on your grief. There's some grieving here that has to be done. And it's in reverse because we know that already that there's a resistance to you wanting to even look at this, right? And grief is probably, if I had to pick one of the emotions that's the most guarded, the one that our ego self doesn't want us to get to, is grief. It's petrified of grief because it feels like it's going to swallow us up alive. But it's not true. I know that I'm heavily defended when it comes to grieving, when I know I have to grieve. But when I'm going through it and when it's all done, it's like you've cleaned up so much out of yourself. And so there's some real grieving that needs to be done. And in reverse, you have the High Priestess. And the High Priestess is another big card for you. I'm going to say you got the two feminine energies of the major arcana. You have the Empress and the High Priestess. Each of these are two halves of the feminine archetype in the major arcana. Beautiful cards for you. And the Empress talks about emotions, like I said. And then you get the High Priestess, which is the other half of the feminine. And she's that inner knowing. She's our gut knowing, our intuition. But it's blocked right now. And we cannot access our intuition unless we are in our body. And so there's a real call for you to get into your body. There's a real call for you to get in touch with your grief. And then your intuition is going to come through for you. And you know how I said at the beginning with this ancestral force that you have this these ancestors that are behind you, that are rooting for you. And there's this commitment that you have to make. And I mentioned that before you can do this, there has to be something that needs to be released. And this is what it is. And so when you release your grief, when you get grounded, when you allow yourself to sit and get really still, it's amazing how I know so many times when I finally run, and I say, okay, I'm sitting down in a chair, I'm putting my feet on the ground, and I'm just going to sit. And I just let what needs to come up. It's grief. And then you're going to get that knowing of what you need to do. It'll be clear because your intuition will come in. And then the final card from the advice from the tarot is the Hangman. And the Hangman is a major arcana again. And it's like this individual that's hanging upside down and there's no pain here. But he's seeing things in a different perspective. And so you're going to see things in a different perspective. Once your intuition kicks in, once you're back in your body after you've grieved, you're going to see clearly. You're going to see things in a different perspective now, and you're going to know what to do, right? And you're going to feel like, yeah, I know that this is the right thing. I know that this commitment that I'm supposed to do, yeah, it's the right thing. Because right now it says, like I said, I think you're wavering and you're not quite sure, but you'll know. You'll know for sure. And so I'm going to leave you with a playlist on journaling that I've done. There's a number of videos in there that you can look at. There's some that I would suggest you really learn how to journal from your depression. And that's something that's really, really helped me. And the main one is journaling from your emotions. I did that a few years ago, but it still stands. That's how I journal, is through my emotions all the time. It's my number one tool. And it's there along with my grounding. Those two are my two tools that I use to get through my trauma. And so, Gemini, I want you to have compassion for yourself for what you're working through. This is a difficult journey, the healing journey, but it's the most important one in your life. So take care, and I'll talk soon. Bye.